welcome back to another playthrough series. This time I'm going to be doing a Solitaire version of Runebound 2nd Edition. And the reason I'm doing it, it's 2015 Gen Con is just finished, and they announced the new Runebound version, the reimagining of this game. But I still really do like this one, and I have a solo variant that I use to play it with. It's kind of a race against time. And I will be getting into that. And so I'm going to show you, I'm starting of course with one character because it's going to be Solitaire. And I have a bunch of expansions for this game which are all thrown into the mix. This is the basic board though. I have the winter one, the Mists of Znanga I think it's called, and also the Sands of Alkaline, the desert one. I have thrown all of the cards that apply into the base game, so you'll see some of them coming up I'm sure. As well as, of course, all the base game. So I will go over, not really the rules, we will look at those as we play, but we'll go over some of the components right now, and then the next episode we'll be getting into the turns. So let's take a look at our starting character first, and basically start off with 3 gold. We'll take a look at his card and kind of how the stats sort of work, and we'll look at the miniature as well. Alright, so here's the character I've chosen. It's Amon the Trailblazer. I forget which expansion he comes from. I apologize to that. Somebody will know, of course. You start off with 3 gold pieces. And I'm going to leave the card here. I'm just going to read his ability. He basically has 4 health and 4 stamina, depicted by the little heart symbol and the little orange symbol. It says, you may always roll 5 movement dice, even if your hero and allies have any wounds or fatigue on them. During your movement step, you may take 1 fatigue to turn a movement die to any die face of your choice. And you'll see how that works when we roll the movement die to move around the map. His particular skills, he gets +2 on climb tests, +2 on swim tests, and +2 on diplomacy tests. And his abilities here, he has a ranged of +2, a melee of 3, and a magic of 2. And the second number you see here is the number of damage points that would be awarded if you successfully win that particular phase of combat. So combat works, there's 3 sort of phases in a combat turn. You have ranged, melee, and magic. So that is the character we will be playing for the solo playthrough. And here's his miniature here. I'm not sure quite how focused that would be, but again, Fantasy Flight Games, awesome little miniatures and components. Alright, we'll take a look at, I guess, the overall board and some of the encounter cards and sort of how the layout of the board works. Then we're going to look at some of the market, things that are out in the market at the moment, and then we'll look at the dice and my little homemade sort of doom track timer for the game. And then I guess next time we'll get into the actual turns. Alright, so I've kind of zoomed in on the board here itself, and you'll see there are the green tokens, there are yellow ones, there are blue ones, there are little city hexes, and there's different terrain on the board. So this is this as like a road terrain, we have a swamp, we have a river, we have hills, we have mountains, and this all plays a part when you roll movement dice. And all miniatures, all characters start in Tamalier, which is a city located here. So that's where we're going to place our character for the moment. And so that sort of gives you a general idea of the map. So we're going to be rolling dice for movement. So if we roll, road symbols, we can move here. Oh, and these are the encounters you can have. So the green encounters are the least hostile. The yellow ones get a little harder, the blue ones get even harder, and then there are red ones which are just off the map. They're in the very sort of outskirts of the board, and they are the most difficult, and that is where, I guess I should tell you the gist of the game. We are trying to defeat Vorakash, I think is the necromancer's name. He is trying to resurrect Maragoth, the dragon, bring him back under control and take over the world of Tiranoth, which is what we're in here. And of course we, as the hero, are trying to prevent it. So let's go, I'm going to take a look at, well, I can show you here, there are of course green encounter cards, a big stack of those, and there are yellow ones for the yellow tokens, blue for the blue tokens, and of course the red ones are possibly Maragoth himself right in there that we need to defeat. And that's, of course, when you land on these spaces, you can opt to have an encounter. And I've placed them with the number side up. You're supposed to, I think, set the board up with just the little icon, but I like to do it this way, so it's just almost easier to see on the board. They get kind of hidden. The board can get a little bit busy, and some of these tokens sort of blend in. So I leave them number side up. All right, we're going to take a look at some of the market cards. And then after that, we're going to look at the dice, and we're going to look at my little homemade Doom track. All right, so here's kind of a 5-mile view of the market cards, and there's a huge stack. Like I said, I have a whole bunch of the expansions. They add in allies. I have, I think, I forget what these guys are called. They're not allies, but they're like minions that help you out. Familiars, I think they are. I forget which expansion they came with. You have like artifacts, weapons, armor artifacts, all kinds of things. And they, of course, have different cost values. So if we just take a look at one card here, this is like an Alchemist Flash Bomb. And it's a weapon, and it's an explosive. And it says, before combat, discard to inflict 3 health points of damage. Tamarill, the location we start in, does not have any market cards. Whenever you move into a city, you pick a new market card, and it joins the pile that are already there. So I'm not going to go through all the detail of what is in there because we can't really afford anything except this one little helper up here, and he's way up on the board in Greyhaven, which is way up here, and we're pretty far away from there at the moment, so we probably won't be picking him up. Of course, he costs 2 gold pieces to buy. What I'm most interested in, if I just kind of zoom down here a little bit, is we have a suit of armor here which can prevent 2 damage to you once, and I like the Alchemist Bomb as well, but they're both cost 5 gold pieces. We only have 3 to start, so we're going to have to start adventuring, trying to collect some gold and knock off some of the monsters and things in order to do so. So now I'm going to take a last look at my homemade little Doom track, which is kind of right here. I'll explain this, and how the dice work. And after that, do a slight bit of wrap up. I guess give an overview of the game again as we're trying to defeat Vorakash, his plan to resurrect the dragon to take over the land. So let me take a zoom in on my little homemade Doom track and the dice, and then I guess we'll be finished with that. Alright, so this is my little homemade Doom track board, and I kind of copied it off the Midnight expansion, which I don't have for this game, which I'd love to have. The only ones I'm missing are Midnight and Isle of Dread, which are the 2 big ones, and I'm missing a ton of little ones as well. But I do have some of the little ones, and again, I'm not going to go into all the detail of what exact expansions I have. It's not really necessary. So how my little Doom track works is I have, here is the starting token, and these are from the Winter expansion. I think they're little Frostbite tokens, but they have the little skull heads, which seem to work perfectly for this little track. And it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10. So if that token moves onto the number 10 space, I lose the game. Basically, Vorakash has resurrected Maragoth the dragon and taken over, and I was unable to stop him. These little tokens are used if you do not defeat an encounter. You put this down on the space, and then you leave the encounter out. All right, how does this board work? Like I said, this goes to 10, we lose the game. I have 3 sort of settings here. I have an easy mode, which starts at 18, a medium mode starting at 16, and we're going to be playing in the hard mode, which is 14. So at the end of every turn, we're going to roll the 2 10-sided dice that come with the game, 10-sided, and if we roll equal to or higher than this number, then this token is going to move forward 1 space. If we do not roll higher than or equal to that number, so for instance we get 7 and 5, we get 13, which is not equal to, then this token moves 1 space. And we have another turn. And so this is going to track its way down. So all of a sudden we get here, boom, we roll a 13. Yes, it's equal to, higher than. This gets reset back to the hard level, and we move this token up once. So this kind of is the timer of the game. So we can't just motor around Terranoth and do tons of easy encounters and level up 20 times. We sort of have to manage how quickly we're going to level up. And when I'm doing the hard mode, I actually will level up every 3 experience points I get. And of course these little tokens are worth experience points. So the green ones are worth 1 experience point. Of course the blue ones are worth 3. So if I can defeat a blue encounter, I can level up right there. But you have to go to town to level up. So everything takes time. And of course with the little timer here, time is running out. So you have to balance moving around the land, defeating encounters and leveling up, and hiring, allies and items and weapons and things as best you can so that you can go and take on a red adventure, hopefully take off on Margoth and beat him. Now, one way to win the game, of course, is to defeat Margoth, the dragon. He is extremely tough to beat, so you need to level up many times before you try to tangle with him. Another way is to collect 3 ruins, 3 dragon shard ruins, I think they're called. And they are also red encounters. So if you defeat 3 of them, you're considered to have enough firepower to take Margoth down and win the game. And what I do for the solo version is if I do not beat Margoth, there's knockout rules. I just say, okay, I went up against Margoth and I died. And that's the end. Margoth wins. So I make it extremely tough on myself to win the game, but it's extremely satisfying if you actually do. And it's not impossible, but it's very difficult. One other thing I need to mention is you are allowed to have 2 weapons, 1 armor, and 2 allies at any one time, and that's the maximum. The familiars, there's no limit to them, so you can have extras there from the expansion. And artifacts, there's no limit to those. You can have as many artifacts as you want. So you're limited to 2 weapons, 1 armor, and 2 allies. And the others you're not limited to. And I was going to just mention quickly, the movement dice, you roll these and they have little icons on them. So that's like a swamp icon, river, we have hills, road, plain, we have forest, river, and where's the mountains? We have mountains, plain, and road. So they're all sort of different. And yes, I have the old, I think this is the original version of Runebound with the stickers inset into the dice. I think the newer versions of the 2nd edition have actually printed ink on the dice. I have the little stickers on them. So anyway, that's my version. Nothing to worry about. I believe it's the same as any others. All right, I'm going to zoom back out to the main map, sort of wrap up this intro setup. I've probably missed a bunch of stuff, but we'll get to it as we play the game and explain the rules as we go along. Okay, so here we are in Tamalier, and we are going to be beginning next episode. I'm not sure how many turns an episode I'm going to get in. Probably a minimum 2, maximum 4, depending on how quickly things happen. Some of the encounters get a little involved. You need to roll a lot of dice. Some of the encounters are very quick, and sometimes you don't have encounters. So a turn can move, can be a minute, or a turn can be 5 minutes. So I can't really say how many episodes a turn, but I'm thinking at least 2 turns per episode, or 2 rounds per episode. All right, that's what I'm going to be doing next is a full playthrough of Runebound 2nd edition with a bunch of expansions, and I hope you'll join me for it. I find it a pretty fun game, and when you add in the timer element, that time is running out. You don't have an infinite amount of time to just run around and level up 50 times before you take on the dragon. So it's a pretty difficult journey, but it's a fun one. The other thing I will say is I do soft knockouts in the game. Original game, if you get knocked out, you lose all your gold and your most expensive item or ally, I believe. What I do is I lose half my gold rounded down, and I lose a random item or ally. So I just shuffle them behind my back, pull one, and they are gone. So that's makes up a little bit for how harsh the knockout rules are. And when you're racing against time, sometimes you need to really try to take on adventures that are beyond you, and you can get lucky and take them out, but you can also get knocked out. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Join me next time when we begin our adventure in Terranoth with Ammon the Trailblazer, and we'll be doing a complete playthrough of Runebound 2nd edition. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Join me next time for Runebound 2nd edition.